TB Timeless.
Now, public universities in Ethiopia are preparing for the worst after the government's decision to gradually remove the budget allotted for institutions. Members of parliament are also worried about political affiliation, as the Prime Minister has the power to appoint both the Chancellor and the Council Chair, an issue that overshadows institutional autonomy and academic freedom.
The long-awaited draft proclamation, dubbed Granting of University Autonomy, was tabled before the House of People's Representatives, HPR, on March 30th, 2023. The proclamation sets free public universities from the state financially, operationally, academically, procedurally, as well as from substantive perspectives. The public universities, which are close to 50 and at different growth stages, will have to re-establish themselves as autonomous universities with a gradual detachment from government budgets. Once the university embarks on the process, they are giving a 2-year transition period. The proclamation authorized universities to establish profit-making enterprises and business organizations as per the commercial code to generate income and cover the expenditure. However, a major issue that concerns MPs was the difficulty of ensuring political fraternities between the government, the ruling party, and universities. Also, the MPs raised concerns that universities should not make education expensive just to cover their expenses. They urged that students must be able to pay tuition fees after they graduate and get employed. Under the new proclamation, universities will be restructured under Chancellor, Governance Board, President, Senate, Autonomous University Council, Executive Committee, and other sections. Leading public universities like Addis Ababa University, AAU, are worried about how to make the transition. The government has already given directions to the AAU to embark on the transition in the new fiscal year that starts in July. On March 28, 2023, the AAU convened its staff and student representatives to establish the way forward. The management of the university told instructors, students, and researchers that they must embark on inventions, innovative research, and patents that can be turned into production and revenue generation. The university also plans to set up a grant office and has already introduced new tuition fee scheme starting this year, doubling the amount from last year.
And now the Coalition of Digital Africa has launched a major initiative aimed at strengthening internet infrastructure across the continent, undertaken in collaboration with the Association of African Universities, AAU. The project focuses on making websites, applications, and email systems within Africa's higher education institutions ready to support all domain names and email addresses. The project, Universal Acceptance, allows all valid domain names, unique addresses, and email addresses to be accepted, validated, stored, processed, and displayed correctly and consistently, regardless of script, language, or character length.
The new project will create awareness of UA within higher education institutions across Africa. Training will be provided for these institutions to configure and make their websites, applications, and email systems UA ready and incorporate the concept of UA into their curricula. This is critical to academic work in various ways, including being able to access vital content from the internet for research and learning. According to Sally Costaton, interim president and CEO of the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN is committed to ensuring that the internet continues to grow faster in Africa to bring communities, cultures, and economies together. More than 2,000 languages were spoken in Africa, expanding the number of languages and scripts which can be used in domain names is an important step towards building a more useful and empowering internet. The Secretary General of the AAU mentioned that the work truly lays the foundation for a more inclusive internet. He added that by enabling the use of local languages and scripts, users in Africa and around the world will be able to readily access imported content online from within the continent and beyond for academic purposes. Stakeholders in higher education and research institutions are being encouraged to participate in the work of the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, UASG, a volunteer-led group supported by ICANN. The UASG is working to achieve UA readiness, in which internet applications, devices, and systems treat all domain names in a consistent manner.
Well, there we have it on the Universal Acceptance Day, and today to help us delve deep and also talk about basically what is making waves all over, which is the Universal Acceptance, is Suleimana Abdulmanaf. He's the IT Technical Assistant here at the AAU. Suleimana, thank you very much for joining us. Okay, so Suleimana, quickly, definitely, I have heard of the Universal Acceptance projects, but if you could quickly give us an overview of the project.
Okay. So the Universal Acceptance Project is an initiative between the AAU and then ICANN and the Coalition for Digital Africa project. So the Coalition for Digital Africa brings stakeholders to expand internet in Africa. Okay. Basically, the Universal Acceptance ensures that all domain names, including top-level domains and internationalized domain names, can be accessed in browsers. Okay. So one may ask, what's a top-level domain? A top-level domain is the final dot after a domain name. For instance, aau.org. Okay. The .org is the top-level domain, and then the AAU is the domain. There are new top-level domains like .photography, .discovery, and then AAU being a higher education institution, they can be a .higher education. Okay. So basically, Universal Acceptance is coming to make all this accessible in all browsers. Okay. Yes.
So, in order to have people embrace the relevance of a project, they need to know in specific what problem that project is solving. So, in this case, what problem is the Universal Acceptance tackling?
So, as of last year, 2022, Africa has the lowest Universal Acceptance readiness, despite Africa being the most linguistically diverse continent. I'll give you an example. Tonaton. Okay. It means, it's an akan, it means buy and sell, tonaton. But you can't put an or in the browser. So you use T-O-N-A-T-O-N instead of T-O-N-A-T-O-N. Okay. Universal Acceptance is coming to make it easy for everyone to, in their local dialects, to access whatever information they have to.
Okay. Do. Okay. It sounds like the Universal Acceptance is a really great project. Yes, but what activities have been put in place to achieve the goals of the project? Okay.
So first of all, we are creating awareness. On 28th of March, we had the Universal Acceptance Day celebrations. We invited higher education institutions, students to come over and be taken through what Universal Acceptance is. Okay. On the 13th of April, we are officially launching the project. Here at AAU, we have key stakeholders who have been invited to come and participate. Then there's a follow-up workshop on the 14th of April, where system administrators and then web assistants will be invited and taken through specialized workshops to understand how the UA works. Yes.
Okay. You mentioned that on the 13th of April you'll be launching the Universal Acceptance, and then 14th is the workshop, right? Yes. Is it open to everyone?
Yes, the launch is open to everyone. Okay. It's a hybrid event, both physical and then virtual. Yes, you can follow our social media channels to register via the link. Yes. Okay.
And now my final question on the launch. I would want to know what plan you intend to put in place to achieve. What you intend to achieve at the end of the workshop? Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the workshop. Institutions have been invited, AAU member institutions and some select non-member institutions who have been invited will see how to configure their systems to make them UA ready. That's the initial workshop, to take them through how to configure their systems to be UA ready. Okay,
sure. Thank you very much, Suleimana. And so if you are an AAU member institution or you're part of the non-AAU member institutions that have been invited for the launch and workshop, do make time to come and we'll take a quick break, and when we are back, we'll bring you health news.
Hey, so this is Bishan from Unica University Common Application. I recommend you to watch AAU television.
AAU TV is the place to be for every person in higher education in Africa. Better be there or be nowhere.
Continuez de regarder la télé et surtout sur le AAU. Keep watching it and it will change the way you interact with higher education on the continent. AAU, great job.
I want to tell you that AAU television is fantastic. It's educative is informative, and it is a must for anybody who is interested in higher education in Africa.
When I was in Accra last year, I did an interview on this TV. It's a very important mouthpiece.
It's a data, it's a bank of all we need for the development of higher education in Africa.
People should make an effort to view it because it discusses very current issues of development across the continent.
I believe that the station will continue to promote the overall development of Africa, particularly in the tertiary education sector.
AAU TV provides a platform and shares a lot of information to a broader audience. So we wish you all the best, and please continue serving
AAU TV,
the voice of higher education in Africa.
In our health news, a study of over 7,500 Irish children researchers at the University of Cambridge and the University of Dublin found that children exposed to hostile parenting at age 3 were 1.5 times likelier than their peers to have mental health symptoms, which qualified as high risk by age 9.
While parenting is widely acknowledged as a factor influencing children's mental health, most studies have not investigated how it affects their mental health over time, or how it relates to both internalizing and externalizing symptoms together. A study undertaken by Ioannis Katsatonis, a doctoral researcher at the University of Cambridge, and Jennifer Simmons, an associate professor in the UCD School of Education, charted children's mental health symptoms at ages 3, 5, and 9. They studied both internalizing mental health symptoms, such as anxiety and social withdrawal, and externalizing symptoms, such as impulsive, aggressive behavior, and hyperactivity. At the end of the study, about 10% of the children were found to be in a high-risk band for poor mental health. Children who experienced hostile parenting were much more likely to fall into this group. Importantly, the study makes clear that parenting style does not completely determine mental health outcomes. Children's mental health is shaped by multiple risk factors, including gender, physical health, and socioeconomic status. The researchers do argue, however, that mental health professionals, teachers, and other practitioners should be alert to the potential influence of parenting in a child who shows signs of having poor mental health. According to Katsatonis, the fact that 1 in 10 children were in the high-risk category for mental health problems is a concern, and we ought to be aware of the part parenting may play in that. Simmons also said that their research findings underline the importance of doing everything possible to ensure that parents are supported to give their children a warm and positive upbringing, especially if wider circumstances put those children at risk of mental health outcomes. The researchers used data from 7,507 participants in the Growing Up in Ireland longitudinal study of children and young people. Mental health data was captured using a standard assessment tool called the Strengths and Difficulties questionnaires.
Stick with us for Discovery News after this short break.
Welcome to GTP Health and Safety Corner. Charging up goes a long way. Strengthen your immune system. Your immune system needs all the help it can get. Eat well, stay hydrated. Hands pick up a lot. Avoid touching your face. Your well-being is in your hands. Sanitize regularly. Stay safe. GTP, timeless.
In our Discovery News, a journalist turned farmer Andrew Ndawala Kalema has ventured into bamboo farming about 65 kilometers north at Kampala, Uganda's capital, to contribute to the reversal of environmental damage seen in the East African country.
In 2010, Uganda had 6.93 million hectares of tree cover, extending over 29% of its land area, but in 2021, it's lost 49,000 hectares of tree cover, equivalent to 23.5 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions. According to the International Monetary Fund, the East African country has lost over 1 million hectares of tree cover, nearly a third of the country's total. With Uganda losing hundreds of hectares of forest cover due to population pressure and illegal logging, both public and individual efforts have become key to restoring degraded land. Growing bamboo on farmers' fields was something unheard of a few years ago, as the plant was mainly seen growing in the wild. That's no longer the case, as increasing numbers of farmers adopt bamboo planting due to its income-generating benefits. Since 2009, Indawula Kalima had been upgrading his bamboo farm as a hobby until he quit his job. He says bamboo, which is fast-growing and can adapt to different weather conditions, is key to mitigating the effects of climate change in Uganda. According to him, bamboo farming can do the job of restoring the environment much faster because it can absorb 30% more carbon dioxide and generate 30% more oxygen, and it can create a green effect very fast, which will take the pressure off Uganda's precious trees. To help spread knowledge of bamboo farming around the country, Indawula Kalima has opened his farm to learners from different institutions. He says students will act as ambassadors for bamboo farming. Julius Sibigaju, a student intern at the farm, says his views about bamboo farming have changed since he started working with Indawula Kalima.
Bamboo, it can be medicinal. Through its charcoal, they burn the stem, which is called the pulp. So you get that charcoal, it's good for digestion, and you can make herbal soap from it.
We will be back with news on sport and entertainment. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Sport and Entertainment News. My name is Isabella Teta Hinakwa. In sports, the Nigerian for New Zealand mixed artist and former kickboxer Israel Adesanya has thanked long-time rival Alex Pereira to win back the middleweight title at UFC 287 in Miami, Florida. With this win, Adesanya makes up to 3 prior losses to Pereira in kickboxing matches in 2016 and 2017, as well as UFC 281. He suffered 2 defeats.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee
Israel Adesanya has pulled off a stunning victory over his long-term rival Alex Pereira, who reclaimed the middleweight title at UFC 287 in Miami, Florida. The win marks a redemption of Adesanya, who has suffered 3 prior losses to Pereira in kickboxing matches in 2016 and 2017, as well as UFC 281. In the second round of the bout, with his back to the cage, Adesanya, aged 33, delivered 2 crashing right punches that knocked Pereira, aged 35, to the ground. Speaking after the win, Adesanya, a Nigerian-born New Zealander, expressed his happiness and encouraged others to chase their dreams and persevere even in the face of setbacks. According to Adesanya, his rivalry with Pereira has created a greater storyline in MMA history. Adesanya switched to MMA full-time after his second kickboxing loss in 2017 and went on to win the UFC Middleweight Championship in 2019, defending the unified title 5 times. Pereira, who had previously achieved multiple weight champion status in kickboxing, followed Adesanya to the UFC and won his first 3 fights, leading to a title match against Adesanya. Pereira had defeated Adesanya in that encounter, leading to an immediate rematch and the 4th bout between the two. The fight saw both boxers utilizing leg kicks in the opening moment, with Adesanya attempting to avoid Perari's powerful left hook. The second round saw Perari applying pressure against Adesanya, but the latter was able to respond with two well-placed right hands that left Perari on the ground. Adesanya wore a dog collar during his walkout, warning that if he removed it in the octagon, he would be unleashed. Perari's walkout was described as a bone-chilling by UFC announcer Joan Rogan, and Perari halted midway to perform a bow and arrow mime as a tribute to his indigenous Brazilian heritage. With this victory, Adesanya becomes the second middleweight champion and hands Pereira his first loss in 5 UFC fights.
Now, let's turn up and party because I'm in Miami. And when you Miami, baby, dale. The last style bender, ladies and gentlemen, Israel Adesanya.
Wearing masks, which represent spirits and ancestors, and performing dances, Sunday, 7th April, was a feast day for the Baoulé people in the center of Côte d'Ivoire. Some gathered in their village of Sakassou to celebrate Pakino or Easter. Speakers of Baoulé are part of the ethno-linguistic grouping of people of the Guinea coast who speak Akan languages. To mark the occasion, the Baoulé people also celebrate with dances, a traditional alcoholic beverage prepared by distillation of palm called kutuku, and Christian Mass. The festival is also seen as a way to connect with the spiritual world and to bring together the community and the different groups of believers. To keep their tradition alive, people from across the Baoulé Kingdom work hard to make the journey home and celebrate Pakino. East of Sakassou, the kingdom's capital, an international festival in Daugro celebrates the Baoulé heritage.
To settle our conflicts and think about the development of our villages, we chose Easter and say Pakino because it means Easter for Baoulé. To keep that tradition alive, people across the Baoulé Kingdom work hard to make the journey home and celebrate Pakino.
Africa. This was after the industry sustained serious damage due to COVID-19. The meeting saw a 35% increase compared to last year, said Carol Reeve, and director of Reed Exhibition Africa.
This was a sentiment expressed by an estimated 600 exhibitors at this year's World Travel Market Africa in Cape Town, South Africa. This is after the industry sustained serious damage due to COVID-19.
Africa's travel market is open and booming. This is a sentiment expressed by an estimated 600 exhibitors at this year's World Travel Market Africa in Cape Town, South Africa. This was after the industry sustained serious damage due to COVID-19. The meeting saw a 35% increase compared to last year, said Carol Reeve, and director of Reed Exhibition Africa. One of the hot topics on Africa's growth is intra-Africa trade. For travel and tourism destinations like Seychelles believes that it will act as a catalyst to wider growth for expanding the country's popularity. David Germain, Seychelles Tourism Regional Director for Africa, talked about introducing cultural activities in Seychelles to bring it more at the forefront. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe, a destination known for diverse attractions like Victoria Falls, predicts that by 2025, their tourism sector will reach a $5 billion growth mark. Jeffries Manjingwa, the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority Executive Director International Marketing, says their projection and the National Tourism Recovery Growth Strategy is to reach a $5 billion tourism economy by 2025. The UN's World Tourism Organization latest data shows that more than 900 million tourists traveled internationally in 2022. These businesses behind are some of the foot soldiers behind the promotion of the continent and driving growth to Africa's travel and tourism markets. In international news, the Italian Coast Guard is leading rescue effort to save at least 400 migrants adrift on a boat in the Mediterranean Sea between Italy and Malta, a long immigration route that NGO have warned is perilously dangerous. According to a Coast Guard, 3 rescue operations involving several vessels and ongoing to assist the boats of 400 migrants as well as another boat with an estimated 800 people on board.
The Italian Coast Guard is currently leading rescue efforts to save over 400 migrants who are adrift on the boats in the Mediterranean Sea, which is between Italy and Malta. This route is notoriously dangerous, and NGOs have warned about its perils. At least 3 rescue operations are ongoing to assist the boats with 400 migrants as well as another boat with an estimated 800 people on board. The boat carrying the 400 migrants is at risk of capsizing after being stranded for at least 24 hours, and it is about 170 miles southeast of Capo Passero off the coast of Calabria. The support service alarm phone has reported the situation to the authorities, but no rescue operation has been announced. Many on board require medical attention, including a child, a pregnant woman, and a disabled person. The boat's hull has been filled with water, and some distressed people may have jumped overboard, including one person who was reported unconscious on the boat. Each year, tens of thousands of migrants fleeing war, persecution, and poverty risk the treacherous routes in search of better economic prospects. This year, so far, nearly 28,000 people have made the voyage, with most arrivals coming from the Ivory Coast, Guinea, Bangladesh, Tunisia, and Pakistan. The Italian Coast Guard and NGOs are urging immediate action, and they have found the boats with the migrants. However, Maltese authorities have ordered 2 nearby merchant ships not to rescue those on board, but instead to supply them with fuel, food, and water. German NGO Sea Watch International has also confirmed that the weather has become very bad, with waves up to 1.5 meters. Alarm phone has reconnected with the boats during the early hours of Monday, and the migrants have reached the shared search and rescue zone between Malta and Italy. Meanwhile, the Italian Coast Guard has reported that more than 1,700 migrants have arrived on the Sicilian island of Lampedusa in the last 48 hours, and there are now 1,800 migrants in a space designed for 400. Lampedusa is the closest Italian island to Africa and is a major destination for migrants seeking to enter European Union countries.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a quick recap of our headlines.
Now, on higher education, universities brace for worse as government grants autonomy. And also, harsh discipline increases risk of children developing Latin health problems.
And in our discovery, Ugandan former journalist turns to bamboo farming to combat deforestation. And in our sport, Israel Adesanya knocks out Alex Pereira to regain UFC title.
And now, thank you very much for sticking with us on the Midweek News on AAU TV. Get interactive with us on our dedicated news hub via tv.aau.org. My name is Lambuta Kwanyame.
And I am Jemima Daladem Duce. Thank you.